Hey everyone, it's Tim from Linessa Farm Specialty and Heirloom Livestock. Thanks for joining us again today. As always, you can contact us on our website at www.linessafarms.com. Send us an email at customerservice@linessafarms.com, or you can send us a text or give us a call at 219-869-7524. Don't forget to check out some of our other videos here on YouTube. We cover a wide range of topics. Today I wanted to talk with you primarily about rotational grazing. I know a lot of you have asked about rotational grazing. A lot of you don't have a lot of space available and you want to put some animals on pasture and you don't know how to go about doing it. So I just kind of wanted to show you briefly what we've got going on here at Linessa Farms. We are rotating our animals every 7 days. I know that may sound like a lot, but it's really actually not that complicated once you get used to it. So as you can see behind me here, we have a couple pastures that are side by side, or a couple pens that are side by side. We have sheep on one side and we have our goats on the other. We like to keep our sheep and our goats separated. So just in case I do need to add a little bit more nutrition for whatever reason to these species, I can give them what's appropriate for them. As you know, and we talked about a lot in the past, copper toxicity is a huge deal with sheep, but the goats need copper in order to stay healthy. So if I do have to give them some feed, this way they're already separated and I don't have to worry about anybody getting hurt. So this is 48-inch high electro netting fence from Premier One. Premier's not paying me to do this. This is just the best that we found and the best for us to use. These are single spike drive-in stakes. I can actually drive these in with a dead blow mallet. We have hard blue clay in our area here, and during the summertime when it gets really hot and dry, these things can become almost impossible to push down. The other little trick that I would like to share with you, if you come down here to this end and look what we've got going on, what we found has worked really good for us is we have right here, this is a T-post, and this T-post is just covered with a piece of PVC pipe. This keeps the fence from shorting out, and it allows me to pull nice and tight when I get around. Sections of fence come in 100-foot sections that we actually tie together. We use some zip ties to tie them together so we can keep our tension pulled. Then we just clip them together, as you can see there. So they're 100-foot sections. Each paddock that you see here is 1,000 square feet. So 1,000 square feet will handle, we found, between 12 and 14 sheep, 12 to 14 goats. They'll eat it about down to where we want them to eat it down to in the period of 7 days, and then we just move them. The T-posts themselves will stay in place. We will simply remove the PVC cover from it and move on down the line. That way the T-posts are always where we need them. We simply just put the plastic pipe over one, and if we get back to this area. So if you come over here, we will actually take a look at how we charge this fence. Part of the difficulty of rotational grazing is most of the time you're not going to have power where you're at, and you're going to need to find some way to power this fencing. The best option, in my opinion, is not solar. I recommend that you use deep cycle batteries, and there's a special charger that you can get that works great with these batteries. I use SpeedRite. SpeedRite is a charger. I believe they're from Australia. This is the SpeedRite 3000. As you can see, I've got a deep cycle battery underneath there, 12-volt deep cycle battery. When this is not being used, I have another battery that's up on the trickle charger. Every 7 days I change them out. This will put out about between 10 and 11,000 volts. Relatively simple. The charger gets hooked up to the battery. The other end of the charger gets hooked up to a ground rod and gets hooked up to the fence, and we're good to go. Now, our pasture is extremely lush and extremely full of clover, and that works out really good for us, so we only have to move every 7 days. Now, what you may find, you're going to have to find what works for you based off of the structure of your the vegetation that is of your pasture. You may not be able to run as long as we do. With that being said, I wanted to talk with you briefly about the bloat issue that can come with putting animals on pasture, especially with clover. As you can see, we have these feed blocks here that our goats and our sheep are eating on. This is a special kind of bloat guard block made by the people at Sweet Licks. They're about $30 a piece, which is relatively pricey, but they last about a month, and the animals do not get bloat at all. I don't ever worry about my animals eating too much clover. I don't have to worry about the time of day that I move them. If you're going to be running them on a pasture with clover or anything that's going to cause them to bloat, well worth your money. It's going to keep you from having dead animals or potential for dead or sick animals. And let's be honest, if you lose one animal, they basically paid for themselves. As you can also see, we have some mini cows out there. They're hard to differentiate other than the color because essentially they are the same size as our sheep, but those mini cows are extremely sensitive to bloat that comes off of some of the vegetation that we have growing here, especially the clover, and so we like to keep them treated. But anyways, yeah, if you look out into the pasture, you can see we moved them in here yesterday. It looks like it's cut down. It's actually not. It's just from them trampling it down. They'll eat on it again for about a week, and then we'll just move them. Every Saturday morning we just come out here and move them, and they do great. We have a couple of hog waters that we put out here for them. We like to use the hog water because the smaller babies can drink out of it as well, and the taller animals can drink out of the top. The other thing is we like something that's nice and high, because if you don't get anything that's high enough, you set yourself up for the possibility of them pooping in it or even standing in it. Some of the animals will actually want to stand in the water. This way it keeps the water nice and clean. We bring our water down in a mini bulk container. We bring it down at about 1,000 gallons at a time in the front end of the skid steer. It's got a nice shut-off valve on it. We bring it over, we open up the valve, we fill them up. These will last about a week. Other than that, that's about what you see. They do really good on the pasture, and the pasture grows back quickly. So the rotational grazing itself basically is set up to where we want them to eat it down, but we don't want them to eat it down so far that they kill it, and then it allows it to regrow very, very quickly. So if you look down here, this is the pasture that they came off of yesterday. So this gives you a good idea of what we're looking at. It's still got quite a bit of growth. And the other thing that I like to do, you can see how much is actually there. It's just been trampled down. And you can see that the animals are real good about just stripping the leaves off of this. What I do, the day that I pull them off of their pasture, I actually go over this with a lawnmower and just mow it down. And what that does is that takes care of any weeds, and it helps the clover and the grasses to grow in even thicker. So we have worked our way down this pasture. They're here today. Next Saturday they will move another 100 feet that way, and we'll just keep going down the pasture, and then we'll come back up the opposite side of the pasture you can see over here. And by the time we come back over, it'll be time to start back and come down, just to give you an idea of how fast this grows. And I also want to show you the two different types of grazing you're going to see. This is pasture that has been grazed by goats. This is pasture that has been grazed by sheep. Now, this looks a whole lot worse than the pasture that's been grazed by the goats. The sheep are a little bit heavier eaters. They're a little bit more picky about what they eat. They really work hard to strip the leaves off of the clover. Where you can see on this side, the goats just kind of eat it from the top down. The sheep are a little bit more picky about what they eat and how they eat it. But anyways, these were both grazed the same amount of days. This side over here was grazed by goats. This side over here was grazed by sheep. Surprisingly, after a few weeks, they'll both grow back about the same, and you won't be able to tell the difference. If you look up here, you can actually see the pastures that we were at a week ago. And then if you look up further, you can see the other T-post, and that was the pasture that they were on 3 weeks ago. So this was moved off of yesterday. This was moved off of a week ago. As you move further up, that was moved off of a couple weeks ago. But look at this, 7 days. So this was moved off of 7 days ago, and you can see how thick and lush this is again already. This is the benefit of rotational grazing. They didn't kill anything. They didn't get so far down that they caused a lot of damage, and it grows back really, really thick and really, really nice. If we move further up the pasture, you'll see it's twice as thick as this and even nicer. So this is kind of what you're looking at, and this is the benefit of doing the rotational grazing. If we come over here, I'll show you more of what we're starting with so you can get an idea of what it looks like before they get put on it and what it looks like after they've been on it for 7 days. As you can see in here, we have a really, really thick stand of clover. We're very fortunate. This naturally grows here in our location in Indiana, and it's actually putting most of its energy into making flowers right now. So it's not quite as tall as it could be. But this is what we're starting with, and this is what we're left with after 7 days. And as you can see, they do a really nice job of keeping things down. So again, rotational grazing, I personally think it's the best thing you can do, especially if you've got a small area. You're going to have to figure out what works for you based off of how many head you have out on the field and what you have for them to eat. Again, watch out for bloating. Keep that in mind. Contact your veterinarian if you need to get a little bit more direction. Cost-wise, I know that's a huge question that a lot of people have. Cost is going to be quite a bit. So for a 100-foot section of the Premier One fencing, the 48-inch tall Premier One fencing, that's going to run you about $168 per 100 foot, and you're looking at 700 feet of fencing that's in there right now. So I'll let you do the math on that. The charger itself, the charger's going to run you about $300. Battery, the deep cycle battery, is going to run you about $100 per battery, and you're going to have at least 2, and you're going to have a way to charge. However, I want you to keep in mind, how much are you paying for hay? How much time is it taking you to feed your animals every day? If you put these animals out here and you're saving 4 bales of hay a day, that adds up pretty quick. And if you can get the right pasture growth, such as what we have here, this is a ton of protein. Clover is almost as good as alfalfa. So just something to keep in mind. Crunch the numbers, think about it. We think it works out well. It'll usually pay for itself in a single season, and the fencing will last many, many years. If you have questions, comments, concerns, reach out to me anytime. Ask me any questions that you have, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.